Florida teen Collin Griffith killed both his mom and his dad within the last year, and he found out his fate this morning for killing his mother. Check it out.
After killing his father in what investigators called self-defense on Valentine's Day of 2023, Collin was released by Oklahoma authorities and moved in with his mother in Port Charlotte. 7 months into his new life, deputies were once again dispatched to Collin's home after an explosive argument with his mother that turned violent. This body-worn camera video shows Collin in the back of a police vehicle as he talked with his grandmother.
I was saying, I'm not a psychopath, I'm not this murderer, I'm just trying to peacefully leave or peacefully coexist and just figure something out. And she kept telling me to shut up and shut up, and when I wouldn't shut up, she hit me.
No, that's not what happened, Collin. That's not what happened. You never said you wanted to peacefully coexist.
I've been saying that.
The video went on to reveal neither grandma nor mom agreed with Collin's take, but the impasse was driving the teen to beg for another place to live.
Collin did not want to come back home.
Okay.
And I said, you don't have a choice. You have to go back home. And he said, no, I want foster care. And even the corporal was saying, foster care isn't going to be good for you. You don't have issues. You have to work on them.
But the pleas for foster care went unanswered as Collin was released the next day and right back in to his mother's home. That same day, Collin was Baker acted for telling jail workers he wanted to kill his mom. Here in the body camera that day, you can hear deputies explaining to the mom why he's being taken away.
But I struggle with a kid that's being released from jail and saying, if you bring me back there, she's gonna die.
If we don't do something, then,
shame on us.
Yeah, then we're not.
Shame on us that we didn't do our job and we failed you. And I'm not failing you. Nor am I going to fail your son.
When deputies confronted Collin about those alleged threats to hurt his mother in this video from late 2023, Collin wasn't sure.
I'm in a constant state of fight or flight, and I don't know. If I think she's going to do something, even if she's not, I might act. I'm not going to like go crazy or anything, but I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay.
You're not sure if you're going to hurt?
Only if she tries to hurt me.
Okay.
Less than a year after this incident, Collin called 911 from his grandmother's house in Polk County to report that his mother, Katherine Griffith, had fallen on a knife and was bleeding from the neck, a claim that the medical examiner later determined was not possible.
Saying his mother fell on a knife, saying that he had to shoot his father. So now these prosecutors are addressing with the court this prior instance, and the judge is going to have to go through what this jury is going to know. Are they going to know that he killed his father? Are they going to know those circumstances? Are they just going to know there was an incident?
He attacked me, my dad, and when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So,
Okay.
Yeah. How was that? I shot him.
In Florida, Collin Griffith is accused of murdering his mother. This happened back in September. Now, this was months after he killed his father in self-defense, allegedly self-defense. Kind of makes you wonder now, in light of these new charges pertaining to his mom, how might the judge handle this mess?
Well, it sounds like the judge, like you said, has a very tough task here. There's a lot of layers to this, but it sounds like his ruling is essentially that the fact that he had killed his father in some fashion, whether it's self-defense or not, isn't relevant to the fact that it's his father, because the danger there is that the jury would take that to mean, well, if he killed his father, then he probably killed his mother. That's the exact reason you can't use other acts by a defendant against them. You can't just say because they did one bad thing, they did this bad thing. What he is indicating, though, is that if the motive can be established, that the reason he killed his mother is because she was going to expose him for that murder, then it definitely becomes relevant. And then the danger for unfair prejudice is outweighed clearly by the probative value. But tough task because it's also layered with this argument about the text messages and the prosecution having to establish that there is a basis for them to be able to get to those text messages. So it sounds like he's making a reasoned ruling here. I'm sure the prosecution isn't entirely happy with it, but there's still enough for them to work with as long as they have the evidence.
Yes, great points, Matt. Matt, tell me, as you look at this kid, he's 17 years old, and the allegation is that he murdered his mother, and we know it is a fact that he killed his father. He hasn't been charged with murder at this point for that. We know initially there were some charges, they were dropped. So however that went, it went. But this child allegedly involved with killing both of his parents. What does that make you think? You're a very seasoned prosecutor. You've seen a lot. What does that make you think about Collin Griffith?
Well, it certainly indicates a person with some significant issues, and I'm sure that the Oklahoma authorities at this point are looking with great interest at what's going on in the Florida case, because it could cause them now to go back and re-examine the circumstances here and decide that they can charge this person. Now, it's entirely possible, it's as tragic as it may be, that this is an individual who both of his parents have put him in a situation where he had to use deadly force to defend himself. It stretches the limits of credibility to believe that. It's more likely that there's some trigger with him, some anger issue that is caused by some type of conflict with one or now both of his parents that causes him to act like this. But again, you have to somewhat give him the benefit of the doubt that there might be an explanation for this. It doesn't sound like we're going down the self-defense road in this Florida case, and certainly the circumstances make that more challenging given the evidence in the case that is apparently going to come to light about waiting 2 hours and the crime scene not matching up with any indication that there was any type of struggle. So defense has a tough task here to prove exactly why to make the state prove why he did this, and not necessarily offering an affirmative defense here.
Right.
A teenager is awaiting his fate, accused of killing his own mother in Polk County. Good evening, everyone. I'm Josh Benson.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us. A jury has gone home for the night as they consider whether Collin Griffith murdered his mother or acted in self-defense. News Channel 8's Polk County Bureau reporter Stacy DeSilva joins us now live from Bartow. And Stacy, this case really didn't happen all that long ago.
No, it was just 5 months ago, in fact, Jen and Josh, that Katherine Griffith died from a stab wound to the neck. It was early September. It was her 17-year-old son who called 911 that day, and it was her 17-year-old son who was on trial this week and is now awaiting a verdict.
As she's getting stabbed, she doesn't stand a chance.
Assistant State Attorney Mark Levine told jurors Katherine Griffith bled out on the floor from a stab wound to the neck.
And she leaves this earth knowing that Collin Griffith, her own son, murdered her.
On September 8th, records show 17-year-old Collin Griffith was staying alone at his grandmother's house in Auburndale, and his mother, Katherine, showed up to make him leave. Prosecutors say Collin Griffith dragged her into the house and stabbed her with a knife.
There was no kidnapping, and this was no felony murder. This was self-defense.
Defense attorney Amy Thornhill called the mother-son relationship very disturbed. Body-worn camera video from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office shows Collin Griffith talking to deputies after a domestic violence incident in 2023.
I'm in a constant state of fight or flight, and I don't know. If I think she's going to do something, even if she's not, I might act.
Griffith told deputies his mother thought he was murderous and sociopathic after he killed his father in Oklahoma. He claimed self-defense and was never charged. Defense attorney Thornhill painted Katherine Griffith as unstable and untruthful with a violent streak of her own.
You've heard of suicide by cop? Isn't it reasonable to think that Kathy committed suicide by son?
The attorneys will now have the opportunity, if they wish, to make a closing argument. Please remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence, nor is it your instruction on the law. However, do pay close attention to what they have to say. Their arguments are intended to aid you in understanding this case. Each side will have equal opportunity, but the state is entitled to divide its argument between an opening and a rebuttal after the defendant has given a closing argument. Does the state wish to give a closing argument?
I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Ladies and gentlemen, the brutality and the carnage that Collin Griffith unloaded on his mom on September 8th of 2024 is as real as it gets. First, I'd like to thank you for not only being here, but for your attention. When you came to jury selection, you had no idea what type of case you might encounter. Would it be a petty theft, a DUI? But what you ultimately heard and sat on was a first-degree murder case with a second count of kidnapping. So to hear and see what you had to go through is not something that jurors see every day, and most certainly most people never think about or see. But you've heard and seen the evidence, and later this morning and into the afternoon, you will be doing what you came here to do. And that is to dispense the ultimate form of justice. Not because I'm asking you to do this or suggesting you do this, but based upon the facts and the evidence, the defendant sits there, a guilty person who stabbed his own mother in the neck and then watched her bleed out in front of him. The lady that brought him into this world here on earth, he took out of this world and this earth. But see, at the end of this, he has to watch you come back through those doors. And he has to stand and he has to listen to the verdict. And that verdict is out of my control. It's out of their control. It is 100% in your control. And I have faith and confidence based upon what you heard and saw that you will do the right thing and you will hold him accountable for the fury he unleashed on his mom. Because the cold hard facts and the reality is quite unthinkable when you really think about it. The reality of what that person did to his mom is a second-by-second nightmare for her. She left this world knowing that the person that took her out was the son that she gave everything to. When you're in the quietness and the privacy of the jury room, I want you to take a close look at that knife. And remember, each inch that knife went flying through Kathy Griffith's neck, through each part of her human anatomy that Dr. Graveran described. Because the reality of it, there isn't just a defendant and a victim and this happened.
410, Mr. Griffith is present with Ms. Thornhill and Mr. Hendry. Mr. Levine is here for the state. I understand the jury has reached a verdict.
Yes, Judge.
Let's have the jury, please. Please be seated. If you are the foreperson, please raise your hand. For the record, juror number 1980896 has raised his or her hand. You may put your hand down. Juror number 1980896, if the jury has reached a verdict, please raise your hand. That juror has his or her hand raised. You may put your hand down. Please pass the verdict form to the bailiff. There are no defects nor omissions in the verdict. Counsel for the state, counsel for the defendant, rise and hearken to the verdict. Mr. Griffith, rise and hearken to the verdict.
State of Florida versus Collin Griffith. Will the jury find as follows? As to the defendant in this case, the defendant, as to count one, the defendant is not guilty. As to count two, the defendant is not guilty. So say will this 5th day of February, 2025.
Does the state wish to have the jury polled?
No, Your Honor.
You may be seated.
As always, drop your thoughts in the comments.